Doing it?
Are we going?
All right. Oh, yeah.
Wait, mine didn't make any sound. I gotta open another one.
Dude, you've already opened like 7.
Who's counting?
Like we just all got here and sat down.
Look at the guy that paid for him is counting.
We all.
Well, there's a story to that. I have an idea. Go ahead, Tim. I didn't mean to walk on you.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that we already could have done 2 podcasts just in the time we've been sitting here. Hey, maybe we should turn all this equipment on and record our conversation.
You got yourself a show right there.
Yeah.
Well, you guys notice an extraordinary collection of beer in there in the fridge. My lovely bride has been bringing home seasonals and stuff. And I honestly think, since I'm not getting out as much and socializing, because of all the treatment, I think she's buying more beer and different kinds so my friends come hang out with me. It's like the pork chop on the Ugly Kid.
Well, she hit the nail on the head for me, man. This right here, they don't call it the champagne of beers for nothing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, actually,
I
they kind of do call it.
I'm used to drinking the beer of champagnes. So
yeah, well, it's weird, but
those I bought for Ronnie Aaron.
Oh, okay.
As the only beer he can drink or that he likes to drink.
I love this beer.
And yeah, it's definitely not a bad beer. Do they still make genuine draft?
I think they do. That also is a pretty good one. Miller, as far as just plain old run-of-the-mill everyday American lagers go, Miller is the best. I'm sorry. I mean, I like regular Budweiser, but I don't like just about anything Budweiser does.
Yeah.
And I like Coors Banquet beer is okay, and Coors Light is pretty much okay, but if I had my choice, it would always be a Miller. That's just kind of the way I am.
Yeah, that's kind of Miller Lite's kind of our stage beer.
Yeah.
Except for Brett, and that's his second choice.
Exactly.
I know I'm the bass player. I have to hand everybody the beer.
Yeah, that's part of your
Kinda my
job,
gig.
dude. It's in the contract. Didn't put that rider in there for nothing.
Yeah.
You should have read the small print a little more carefully, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cheers.
Cheers, gents.
Yeah.
So we promised to get to – we got a couple of revolving topics. One of them is conspiracy theories. And I've had a few cross my radar, and I swear one of them was in the car today. I heard it on an XM station. And I was actually on the phone. So when I hung up, I only caught the part – or I only missed the part that told me who it was. So I'll come back to it. But it's – one I've never heard, and it lands right in my professional lap. So,
all right,
we'll go from there. So,
okay. Well, your job in this podcast, I surmise, is that you are going to present the conspiracy theories, and Cliff and I are going to dismantle them because that's what we're best at.
Yeah,
is that why I'm here?
I guess so.
One of them I did last night. I didn't sleep well, and if anybody's been watching Scott Adams lately. Scott Adams is on, I think, prednisone. He started going deaf, and he already couldn't smell. He hadn't been able to smell for a long time, 12, 14 years.
Damn.
And he went to a specialist and found out it's very simple. He has polyps, benign growths in his eustachian tube. And even as wealthy and he's a super smart dude, he's just never gone to an ENT. And an ENT goes, yeah, man, your eustachian tubes are plugged up. It's getting worse. Here's a steroid. And so that's one of the things that I get with chemo. And it is very stimulating. Mind, body, soul, and everything else, right? I mean, I'm not taking the fridge apart like a meth head or anything, but you kind of you fixate and you get on projects and stuff. And I picked up one a few days ago that I got into that I want to talk about.
Sounds like Ritalin.
But I don't have any experience with Ritalin. But you do focus.
Yeah.
And you feel good, but you don't sleep, so then you crash and you feel crappy.
Yeah.
And so at the end of that, it fades enough you sleep, and that's kind of where I am. So I woke up and felt good and all that. And this is killing my voice. It's worse than the other stuff, but allergies on top of that, and here we are. So.
Well, feel free to – you have your new supercomputer so you can edit out your throat clearing.
Yeah. Supercomputer got VR installed So I'll have it ready for the gaming episode. And
Nice.
I have a lot to say about VR. So it's the Valve Index for all you geeks out there. Thanks to Jim Storms. Go back and watch a couple episodes with him. He built it. And if you've never been near a high-end monster gaming machine when it starts crunching numbers, that was pretty cool. I could hear it through the headset, and you could feel the heat burning off of it, and it glows. It's like you can see its soul. It's pretty cool. So,
Can you mine Bitcoin on the side? I'm just asking for a friend.
well, Bitcoin mining is why I have that machine.
All right.
Because Jim
There's got to be a conspiracy in here somewhere.
Yes.
Jim mined Bitcoin very successfully, and he built gaming computers for friends and family. I paid very little for it. I paid for the parts that he just didn't have or some options that I wanted. And if anybody cares or wants to know what's working on that with that system, email me because I can't name it. But it was
Cool.
It's a Bitcoin mined machine, and it is an absolute screaming monster. I love it.
I noticed your lights were a little dimmer in here today.
Yeah.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
Electricity bill doubled.
Kicking on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one of those battery backup power strip things. You know, it's got the little 12 volt in it that keeps your computer from going off.
Yeah.
And we had it plugged into that, and as soon as he turned it on and started running it, you know, smoke testing it, that power supply said, "I'm out of here. This is it's
Gave
too
it the
much."
ghost.
Yeah, pulls a lot of juice. So I try to keep these local. So we'll start with the first one, local. And
Conspiracy theory number one.
conspiracy theory number one, and I don't know. I'm going to try to frame this. That the Odessa shooting, that there was more than one shooter who got away, and it's being covered up. Now I'm gonna put it in brackets. There are several in there that were on a news article about it. So that's sort of it. That's where we are, and
that is going to be. You might have saved that one for last because that one's the easiest to tear down and the most outrageous.
no. It's not going to be. Wait till we get to the end,
Okay.
dude. You guys haven't even heard it yet, so
Yeah, all you have to do is look at the totality of the evidence and then listen to how all of the radio communications resolved. The preponderance of physical evidence against that conspiracy theory is it's overwhelming. And I don't see how anyone could believe that there were multiple shooters, except for that they just want to believe. It goes back to what Cliff has taught us for so many years about the nature of where conspiracy theories derive. You know, it's that when you see we're taught as we come up through life that if you put forth a little bit of effort, you're going to get a little bit of result. And if you want something good to happen or something big to happen in your life, boy, you better work really hard and you better make something big happen. You better put forth great amounts of effort. And so we see all over the place where a little bit of effort produces a little bit of result, and a great bunch of effort produces a great result. But when we see where a little bit of effort produces a great result, that's where a lot of conspiracy theories come from, is people cannot accept in their minds and their psyches that just a little bit of effort on someone's part resulted in this massive catastrophe or this massive tragedy or whatever. 9/11 is a perfect example of that. That's where you get the 9/11 truthers. They just can't believe that this handful of Saudi Arabian and Middle Eastern dudes were able to destroy these two giant buildings in New York and do damage to the Pentagon and all this other kind of stuff.
And the more people it reaches, the more of those.
Yeah,
that mind.
There's a
that
group
nothing
think.
Is
Exactly. Yeah. It becomes tribalism at a certain point, and then all of the truthers get together, and all the conspiracy theorists of one flavor or another all get together, and then they bolster each other's confidence, and then it becomes almost like a religious movement. And in fact, it is a religious movement.
Yeah, it follows the same lines.
Right.
So
So
we think.
Here comes Cliff with the most salient
you
point.
know, hey man,
Once again,
you're putting a lot of pressure.
You have
on
set a bar, dude.
You're putting a lot of pressure on me, man.
we ramble like cackling hens. You're real quiet, and then you come in and just drop a bomb.
Okay, so serial killers and mass murderers, have you ever noticed they're almost always loners?
Yes.
It's the lone wolf, guy who goes out and he, kills 53 school kids because whatever.
Exactly.
Whatever the deal is. Do you know why that is? Do you have and I mean anybody who is a social person understands this. Do you have how incredibly difficult it is to find another person who wants to do the same thing that you want to do?
Another dude who's into the same stuff.
I mean, if we can't even, the three of us can't even decide where we're going to go eat lunch. Can you imagine me calling one of you guys and going, "Hey man, I got fired today and I'm going to go shoot the place up. You want to go with me?" Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, it's just the odds of that are like astronomical. Now, I say astronomical because there have been serial killers that worked with other people.
Yeah, San Bernardino is a good example of it.
But
Dude drug his slave wife and
those were your 9/11 guys. Those people were motivated by something bigger than themselves.
But it's rare.
But it is still very rare. Most of your guys that do this sort of stuff are loners. Timothy McVeigh. Now he had a couple of dudes that sort of helped him a little bit. They were kind of like accessories, but when it came down to like, hey man, we're driving this truck over there.
It would not have happened if it wasn't for him.
We're going to drive this truck over there and we're going to blow it up. And all of his friends are like, hey man, I'm busy that day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I kind of feel like I've gotten myself into something and I'm going to back off at this point. You're really serious about this.
It's just, so on the face of it, okay, when somebody says, hey, there were two guys that were driving around Odessa shooting people up for no reason whatsoever, apparently, other than one of them was mad. So just with nothing more information than that, my brain immediately goes, what are the odds? What are the odds of two guys that
the crime analyst kicks in?
What are the odds of two guys who happen to have found each other in this wide world of ours that both decided this is how we're going to make our last stand. Yeah. This is what we're going to do to get now. You look at the guy, the Columbine. That was the Black Swan event where you actually had two guys that kind of fed off each other and both participated.
But they were isolated in themselves.
But that is extremely rare when you look at it. It's very rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it's very rare for that to happen.
But they had the same mission. The dude in Odessa got fired from his job, made thinly veiled threats that he was going to shoot the place up. His employer freaked out and started calling the police. Luckily, the guy, being crazy, started calling the FBI and rambling and whatever. And there's no, what buddy, if you got fired tomorrow, what would it take for Matt or I to get so mad we were like, screw society, Cliff got fired?
And that brings up, when me and Matt used to teach concealed handgun classes, and because you took it from us. Mm-hmm. So there's the part of the class, the module about nonviolent dispute resolution.
Yes.
And so one of the parts that we talked about in that class was empathy. Having empathy with a person that you have a dispute with kind of helps dissipate the dispute.
It de-escalates.
De-escalates, right. And so one of the things we talked about in the class was there's the difference between empathy and sympathy.
Right.
Empathy means I understand how you feel. Sympathy means I feel the same way you feel.
Right.
Okay, it's very rare when you get in a murderous rage, it's very rare to find somebody who is sympathetic with that.
Exactly.
Okay, they might be empathetic. I might be your best friend and go, hey, man, I understand how you feel, dude.
Your wife is a total whore. I empathize with what you're going through.
And you're like, yeah, well, I want to kill her. Well, you know what? I'm going to kill her. I feel like killing her, too.
You might want to tap the brakes on that shit.
Exactly. I mean, it just doesn't happen that often.
Right. So it comes. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It does come down to odds. It's one of those things that that would be a black swan event. And you have to start looking at just the simple rules of operational logic in a situation like that. Compare that to the preponderance of the evidence and make a reasonable decision based on reasonable thought processes.
So I look at, in this and the next thing we're going to talk about, stepped back and looked at my reaction. That was a couple of days after I retired. I heard the whole thing on an online police scanner, and I was watching a Facebook feed, just comments on the only post about it. I can't remember who made it. And it was confusing. And it was confusing to me because cops are doing what cops do a lot of times. When they give a location, they're going to name a business. They're going to name places that you're going to, I didn't Google it all up, but when you say the Ford dealership, I kind of sort of know what they're talking about. And so I'm trying to picture all these places, and it all sounded odd and wide to me. Now, but then I find out how much the guy was moving. I have trained for, we said this before, I've trained for a lot of shit. Never for a moving mass shooter in a vehicle.
A rolling mass shooter. That's one thing that did not get talked about in the media, is that a rolling high-speed mass shooter that's something that has never happened
I don't know
before.
of any others. So
and that lends itself to thinking there are more than one person.
When he changed vehicles, that really got
he's using force multipliers
weird.
and evasion tactics. So you have all that going on. And remember, folks, think back to the Beltway sniper. That was two guys, and they used one vehicle and one rifle through the entire operation. And how many vehicles were we looking for?
Right.
Because of you. So, point of all that I just rambled on about, if you confuse me, and I'm a guy in the know, okay, I've spent a lot of years listening to police radio. I have responded to active shooters. I have been in shootings. I've done all that shit, and I was confused.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm sure I was as confused as some of the guys that were there that knew the place. It was, because it's, they call it, fog of war. And one thing you have to imagine is not only are these guys driving, they're listening, they're communicating, they're planning, they're putting everything together. There's a lot going on, but the vehicle's changed, the location's changed.
Right.
And so that happens in a lot of mass shootings.
Yeah.
What about this third guy? Well, that third guy came from an old lady who saw the neighbor's gardener run to his truck from the bushes
and decided was the guy. Yeah.
And let me tell you something else that happened during that whole episode. We had a guy talk about timing. You just think the guy got out of bed that morning and goes down to Midland Park Mall and goes in the mall, and where the Sears, I guess it's Dillard's now, but it was Sears for a long time.
Yeah, anchor store. And
shoplifts something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
right as the shooting is breaking
while the shooting is going on, he shoplifts from Dillard's. He gets caught shoplifting. So what he does is he takes off running, and he runs through those double doors, going out of the mall. And in the process of doing that, he hits the door and breaks the glass in the door. And when it breaks, it goes
boom,
boom. And somebody calls 911 and says, I just heard a gunshot at Midland Park Mall.
In the midst of all this confusion.
Of all of this other stuff going on. And so at this point, we have many officers running around out there have no really idea what, like you said, what is happening.
Yeah.
And all we know is we got a call of shots fired at Midland Park Mall during the middle of this. Mm-hmm. So, of course, they fell all over it like they should. And
then everybody's on Facebook.
And
they've got a shooter at Midland Park Mall because all the cops are running in with their rifles.
Yeah, they got a shoplifter at Midland Park Mall.
Yeah, we can talk about what social media did in the early stages of that and how disgusting a lot of it was. But
that was horrible.
But I do want to say this, that I talked to Roger Gertson just last night about this. I went over and had coffee with him in Odessa. And he said that the craziest thing he saw in all of that, and he knew something was bad, really, really bad, and he knew that he needed to be concerned. He was out riding his bicycle. For those of you who don't know, one of my best friends, Roger Gertzen, he's a retired athlete. He's 70 years old and bicycles about 200 miles a week. He was out on his road bicycle when all of this started happening. And he said, the craziest thing I saw, and when I knew it was really, really bad, is I saw this group of law enforcement running hot, lights, sirens, hauling ass down whatever road he was talking about. He may have been talking about John Penn Shepherd or 42nd. He said, and this huge group of fast-moving police vehicles gets passed head-on in the other direction by another group of high-speed moving law enforcement vehicles. He said, they're not going to the same place. Yeah. And he said, that's when I realized something is really horrible, because either these guys don't know what's going on and they're confused as to where they all need to be, or or there are reports of things happening in multiple places. He said, I literally have never seen a group of fast-moving police vehicles go head-on and pass up in the opposite direction another group of them.
That is unusual.
Yes, yes. So it was just the circumstances of how it happened, the uniqueness of it being a high-speed rolling mass shooter, and then all of the confusion that it initially caused, some of it being spread on social media, that is lending itself to people wanting to buy into those conspiracy theories. But I will say this. First of all, not trying to trivialize or minimize the seriousness of what happened. All due respect and the thoughts and empathy toward everyone who's affected by that. We're not trying to trivialize any of it. But I will say this. Some of the stuff that I saw in the early stages of the shooting and as it developed on social media were absolutely disgusting. And not just people posting pictures of the victims and that sort of stuff, but just the nonsense that people were willing to in a knee-jerk fashion post to social media about what was happening. And that also has lent itself to people buying into conspiracy theories, because they remember, well, Billy Joe and Jim Bob both posted that there was two of them, and I know Jim Bob since Vietnam, and that he don't lie.
Yeah, that's gonna go a long way into our next one.
I had
social media.
One of my friends posted, now the shooter is at Rogers Ford in Midland. Now the shooter is at the airport. You don't know shit. Shut up. You don't know. You're sitting in your house. You don't know what's going on. Stop posting to social media. You don't know.
We responded to a shooter in Odessa, and it was Victor White, and it's all over the place. Mm-hmm. And crazy guy with a rifle, and he fired a shot. My understanding, I'm probably not wrong. He's a crazy guy who lives in a caliche pit and was freaking out thinking the oil companies were out to get him. The cops went with an oil company to talk to him, and he started shooting. I think he hit a couple of people, handgun. Yeah. And then he fired.
He almost killed some guys.
Well, he fired a shot at a police car that was parked way far away, and the cop was actually sneaking toward him through the field. This is as it came up later, and he was shooting at people. And the rifle was so far out of alignment, or he misjudged the shot, that when he fired, it fell short and hit the cop in the head.
Yeah.
And he's very fortunate. He's a buddy of mine. I've known him a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were part of the tactical response to that. And so at that point, we knew the guy had landed, 200-yard shot, headshot. And
didn't know it was just a lucky shot.
And he had also... it was in a caliche pit, and he was shooting from different angles and different ways, and we rolled up in the armored vehicle, and we got hit a couple of times, and we couldn't make sense of it. He actually changed shirts, I think. He's like getting cold, and he threw on it. It was an absolute mess.
Put on a jacket.
Yeah,
He's a criminal mastermind.
Yeah,
it took a while.
Put on his smoking jacket.
All of these are things. Yeah,
his shooting jacket.
All of these are things that sound like someone that knows what they're doing.
Right.
And it was all coincidence. And we got him the next day. In fact, he had made Oh, I got a picture of him. So he had made his own IED, and he threw it, and he hit a post or something by his little shitty trailer, and it bounced off and burned his house.
Damn it!
And
Maybe not a criminal mastermind.
So he's
Good thing
freaking
he
out
had the
because his
smoking
house was
jacket.
on fire. We came up in the armored vehicle.
And immediately blame that on you guys for burning his
Well,
house
that's
down.
it. Everybody
Yeah.
was going with So already, you know,
The
the
cops
Waco
burned the house down.
the Waco story started coming out. But what was crazy, we rolled the armored vehicle up, and you have on the M113 that we had the big pneumatic door that the whole ass end just drops out into a ramp. And it takes a while, and it's a death trap. You can't slam it shut if somebody gets up behind you and just, you're shooting quite literally fish in a barrel. So there's a secondary hatch that opens up that's smaller to hit, but it's tough to get through. It's really small. And so we grabbed the guy, and we're going to take him out in the armored vehicle with the SWAT team, and they're putting him in the door, and his secondaries started going off. He had other explosives.
Oh, shit.
So the first thing, boom, and you hear shrapnel and shit flying around. So now we have no idea what's going on. Well, he got tossed in the vehicle, promptly followed by the rest of the team. So there's this pile of people, and busted his head on there's a post that supports a seat in there. It split his head open. And so we go around to the media. We go around to the command post. Very secured. There was nobody there but cops. Somebody took a cell phone picture. And it got shared, and it got shared, and it got shared, and it got shared. And I'm in it. In fact, I'll put it up right here. What you're seeing is the Victor White being led out, and his head's bleeding. And he's in his old shitty, nasty, matted hair. That's me in the back with the armored vehicle. The ATL's with the guy. I can't remember who's on the other side. And immediately, police brutality.
Yeah.
Theories came out. We're like, nobody laid a hand on that guy.
He's clumsy.
He scared the shit out of us. And we ran into a car, and he bumped his head.
He's bad with IEDs.
Yeah. So
it's very much a klutz.
Anyway, sorry to digress with the war story.
No, but that's exactly that illustrates.
You had
awesome,
at one point a couple of SWAT teams there in daylight getting shot at, and we were not sure how many people we were dealing with just because of the layout of things.
Exactly.
So
that illustrates it perfectly. So anyway.
Nothing to that one.
All right. Next one. Let's change the subject.
Okay.
Conspiracy theory.
I don't know how well this one's going to work.
Number 2.
Conspiracy number 2, and this one is tough, and it's going to be hard for me to convey how tough it is, because it's a cancer one, and when you're like me, you're dealing with the disease. You have a lot of well-meaning friends send you things, and the third time I got this guy's name, I said, all right, he's going on the list. But the third time, a friend sent me a video, and his name's Dr. I had to write it down, Brzezinski in Houston, Texas, cancer doctor from all the way back in the 70s. And I'm going to miss, in just the description of this, I'm going to miss enough details to piss off both sides. But here's the thumbnail.
All right.
Yeah.
That's got to be a conspiracy right there.
It's a mark of a good podcast.
Why is this guy pissing everybody off?
Everybody's
There's got to be
pissed.
some kind of conspiracy.
I watched the documentary, and in the documentary is a guy from a Skeptic Society at the end who stands up in a showing of the film and completely reversed his position. He goes, I believe you. I'm down. You're right. We're wrong. You got it. And had I not been a cancer patient for, what are we doing, 6 years now, I might have been that guy. The film was that good.
Okay.
This doctor has a clinic. He developed there it went, starts with a P. It's a chemical chain. One of the compounds is phenylacetic acid.
Okay.
The barrel with the B on it from Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and some others he was using with people, and apparently in cancer patients, specific brain cancer.
Did you just say meth cures cancer?
Yeah.
I think that's what you just said.
It was
phenols.
Yeah, it's a compound. It'll hit me here in a minute. Anyway, had some promising results, and he developed it, and then the Texas Medical Board, FDA, basically everybody come down on him. And there's a lot of history in that. It's enormous. It's a giant, huge mess of them suppressing him from studying or using the stuff, and people stole it from him, tried to develop it elsewhere. It is a mess. And
this is like the car engine that runs on water.
Well, except it appears that this guy kind of sort of did it.
Okay.
That there was some promise to it, but
so you're saying there's not a car engine that runs on
right?
water?
It's really complex, and if you want to look,
now I'm confused.
If you want to look into Dr. Brzezinski, it's complex, but I'll put a bow on it at the end as best I can. He had patients that were success stories, and again, most of them were a very specific kind of brain cancer, and a lot of young people. So it's a rare kind of thing. There weren't guys like me with kind of run of the mill stuff. Anyway, and I was on board, and two things kind of took me out of what they were saying. First thing is the patients didn't sound like the patients that I'm around.
Okay.
You have this disease long enough, you'll damn near sound like a doctor. You know all the abbreviations, all the names, blah, blah, blah. I've been on 5FU for 3 cycles, having HIPEC in 2 weeks. You hear stuff like that.
You get all the buzzwords.
Not, I had cancer all over my body, I went to this doctor and I was cured.
Yeah.
And I'm metaphrasing it, but that's kind of how it was. It was the first thing.
So were you getting the feeling that these people were maybe like actors?
No, I'm not. I'll get to that at the end.
Okay.
I'm telling you, man, I was on board. I was on board until the filmmaker rolls like a 2-minute scroll that explains that this was all done because this guy developed a cure for this type of cancer, which means it can be changed, modified, worked with, tweaked to cure other and potentially all cancers, thereby shutting down the cancer industrial complex.
The profit.
And everybody's on the take.
Margin, yeah.
And I'm like, damn it, you had to go there, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put in, this is thumbnail of why I don't buy that. When you say that,
you
post that on Facebook.
You went in with an agenda and a confirmation.
Well, okay, that and I had this analogy finally to put it all in perspective. Cancer is like controlling weeds in your yard. All right. Why is there? We can kill weeds, right?
Yes.
You got shit you can spray on a weed, but it doesn't kill all the weeds.
No.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't kill all the weeds all the time. And it's hard to kill the weeds without killing your grass. Trust me, I have created marital discourse with my application of certain chemicals. No one in the world has a yard without weeds. There's no one weed killer. And it's a process. It's a trial and error of how much. You put on this much. For years, I treated this kind of weed, and it made my Bermuda sick because they're pretty close in structure. And then somebody came out with a chemical. Hey, it works great. Doesn't touch anything else. So there is no cure for cancer, because saying cancer is like saying weeds, because you're talking about hundreds of variants of different kinds of disease and the mechanisms in which they work. All right.
Exactly. How many different treatments have just you been on? You've been on different types of chemo. You've had different types of radiation treatment. I mean, to treat the same cancer.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and
anyway.
I can also tell you, I counted 7 people who have had, we share at least 50, 60% of the same drugs, same chemos, and all 2 are dead, 3 cancer-free, 2 still alive with recurrence, and I'm one of those guys. Mm-hmm. So, those are the numbers. Anyway, the next thing he were the clinical trials. I'm not even going to go into that. I am in a couple of studies and I am a candidate for some clinical trials. Somebody lit the dog up.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a delivery.
She's a good watchdog. Either that or it's a cat.
Yeah, it could be. Cliff, would you mind looking? This may be a signature package. So, I kind of know the process. And when the doctor was talking about the selection of patients, it didn't make sense. So those two things, what the patient said and then what the doctor said. And one of the problems that mainstream medicine was having was the way that the studies were done and that they weren't complete. He'd only completed phase 2 of the clinical trials and blah, blah, blah.
Well, let's see what we got here.
Oh, yeah. Boring electronic parts, I tell you. The one in your left hand is ferrite coils.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be podcasting
okay, this
equipment.
says...
The big one, the other one's the Black Destroyer.
Wait, no. This says something about marital aids. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe
There
that's
you
the
go. You
Black
wanna take a
Destroyer.
look
It
at
I
doesn't
don't
look
want
big enough.
AIDS.
And then this is Okay, it says personal lubricant. Is that okay?
Yeah, you got to buy it in bulk, dude.
All right. Well,
Seriously, you could start a fire.
Oh, I thought it said analysis. It's anal ease.
Yeah.
I got you.
The dash is really small.
I can't believe you had the UPS guy like overnight that.
Yeah,
I mean,
plain unmarked packaging, my ass. So,
His ass.
yeah. See that? Bam. Segue.
Okay,
So,
finish.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to hold a thought. Anyway.
It's not like we're helping you.
Yeah. You guys are like a bunch of squirrels. And my dog, man, I can't focus. So anyway, I was on board with it because of the bureaucracy that the guy was working against. I've read a lot about that, and they are clearly out to get him. Numerous grand juries with no indictments, criminal charges, one set of medical violations, Texas Medical Board violations, where 6% of the accusations were found true, and it was all in regards to records and billing, which is a fine and clean this shit up. Very unreasonable stuff. From my experience as a peace officer, that's what got me. Because at some point when you go after somebody, you're going, we got to let this one go. We're not going to catch them on this. And that wasn't happening. They kept going. So I thought there's a reason for that. We don't understand. And then this guy linked it. He did a brilliant job on linking everyone together and any negative press to the guy. And I was buying it. And then when I got done, I thought this couldn't be right. So I read I went to this. I thought I want to know what happened to that Skeptic. The Skeptic he reversed his reversal. And there was an article published by a guy who did. It's Skeptical Inquirer. You guys can look it up with the name, and you'll find it if you care. I don't want to put all those names in print because I don't want to be a part of this, because a lot of people take great offense to this. So here's what it comes down to. There was a lot of questionable building practices. You come in, hey man, I have cancer. I hear you can cure me. Yeah, you're not a candidate for the drug that I can't think of right now, but we can do this other treatment. And oh, by the way, it's $38,000 a pop. This guy made millions. They did 40 million. Yeah, I think it was like 40 million. So, okay, let's not talk about.
In other words, it was probably a snake oil operation.
And then I read on, and this part's dark. So, the problem with cancer patients and the treatment is you can't compare it to anything else. When you get to the point where I am, a lot of the drugs you're on cost a lot of money, because a lot of us aren't going to be around to open the mailbox to take the bill out and pay it. All right, that's dark, but that's reality. That's
cost shifting.
One of the things. Yeah.
Cost shifting drives up the price of drugs.
Yeah, you have to slide that around. Also, that creates giant survivor bias. The people that are still alive have miraculous stories. And I read through some of those, and he had stories of other patients who had more evidence and information than the others. Then it became clear why other doctors, a big complaint was people would go to Sloan Kettering, they'd go to MD Anderson, they would go to places like that, and they would say, well, I'm going to go to Dr. Brzezinski, and they're going, don't do that. It'll make you sicker. Stick with this course, whatever. And it's they would interview those guys and they go, yeah, we would tell somebody that. And that's kind of the interview. Why? Well, why won't they say it? Okay, they've treated a lot of his patients who died or were sick because of the treatment, but that's so tightly under HIPAA.
Yeah, that it can't be exposed easily.
Yeah. It is so tight. You get a new chemo nurse, and patients, we all on the same day and all, we kind of know each other, and I'll say, hey, is Tim's coming in today, right?
Can't tell you that.
I can't
even tell you if he's going to be here or not.
Right. So there was that, and then more and more when I really read and tried to understand the studies, it kind of falls apart. And then I looked at it and I thought, this guy is an absolute genius, because I'm going to get to the survivor story. I hear people say, do this, it cured my cancer or somebody's cancer that I know, and they can't explain it. Or, I want to know more about it. Wait a minute. I remember you going to Mayo Clinic, and you're saying you gave up on them and used essential oils, and now you're cured. See, I need to know more about that.
Right.
And so there was a lot of that, and brain cancers, and especially brain cancers in kids, are weird. Mm-hmm. They're rare and they're weird, and even in conventional medicine and other things, now and in the past, they'll say, dude, you're going to die. Go home. If you make it, don't buy any green bananas, and you're done. And they come out of it. Mm-hmm. It goes away or whatever. There's just a mess on that. It's in the weirder diseases. So when I looked into that, those were the kind of stories, and that was a tough one. Yeah. That was a really tough one to get through, and not emotionally or anything. It's just that documentary was so good. I applaud the guy who made the documentary. It was freaking fantastic the way he did it, and there was a lot of drive-by media stuff against the doctor that was crap, and the doctor was done wrong. But I think it started honorably, maybe had some promise, fell apart in the trials, wasn't going so well. The doctor wanted to say, okay, well, my trial is going to consist of these patients. And they go, that's not how we do a trial. And lawsuits, effery back and forth. Finally, I'm not going to do it. Demands against me, and it's over. Okay, so that's where it lands.
So I'm going to add a dynamic to this. As a filmmaker, as a guy who has gotten paid over the past 25 years to do a lot of videos, including a couple of documentaries, but a lot of TV commercials and
porn. Spoiler alert.
Ixnay on the Ornpay. No, so the thing about documentaries and documentary filmmakers is that you always approach a documentary with two primary things in mind. Creating a compelling narrative. That's what makes documentaries, is that what you are constructing as a story can go a lot of different directions. You can interview 8 people and have all that interview footage, and you've interviewed all of them for 2 hours apiece, and you've got all of this B-roll, and you've got all of this historical material or pertinent data material that you can use. A lot of documentary filmmakers, and this is one of the things that's never talked about, is that you can take a documentary, or you can take all that footage and all of that data and all of that material you have, and you can make 3 different documentaries that tell 3 distinctly different stories. That's your choice. That you control the narrative as the filmmaker. What ultimately determines the narrative of the documentary is how compelling it is, and how that compellingness will get you to your next project profitably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there are some exceptions to that if you're a Ken Burns and you've got PBS money and foundations backing you and there's no pressure, you get a more honest documentary. But struggling young documentary filmmakers who may be very talented from a filmmaking standpoint have a vested interest in creating something that is compelling, that tugs very, very hard at the heartstrings, and that confirms people's willingness to believe a certain narrative in their own minds.
That is very well said, and I think that's exactly
sounds to me like what happened.
It's a tough read. It took a steroid, rage night to go through all of it and read about it. And okay, what about the people? What about all the people who say they were cured and some that seem to be well documented? Reading some of the drugs that they were using are some of the drugs that have been successful on me. So I don't know if what he's doing in addition to it maybe work together is a little synergistic or what. The thing is, if there is, and
most documentaries combine real things and true things with an element of drama.
Right. And the thing is, it's sad, but I do think, government bureaucracy, number one. Number two, I think the guy has very tactfully skirted and made a lot of money.
Interesting.
And that's just my 2 cents on it.
Very interesting.
The whole thing, one of the things that they had a guy, director, FDA, somebody that said unless somebody was promoting a drug that had unlimited deep pockets, he would never support development of the drug. Mm-hmm. Now, it sounds horrible and heartless and evil empire. They can't pay me off. Well, here's a little thing that I put together one night watching TV. So if we developed a drug that cured a specific type of cancer very well, we have to go through all the trials successfully, all the way through. That's big. Mm-hmm. And all the way during that, you're tweaking it and you're modifying it and running a business. So you're pouring out money, pouring it out. So let's say your drug works, you get through clinicals, you get into human trials, everything works, and then bam, it's a drug and it's being manufactured. So now we have a patent, and we have a limited amount of time in which we have exclusivity on that patent.
Right.
So now we have to make up all of that from back to the first. Okay, from back to the first day that we were sitting around drinking beer going, hey, I got this crazy idea. So now we make the drug, and we administer it, and let's say it correlates with the trials, and we do it. We cure a lot of people, and we make this shit ton of money. Okay, well now, in that shit ton of money, we have to run an enormous business in the United States, and distribution network, quality control. You have to keep everything the way it is, and you have to continue studying the drug to make sure it's working. Now what happens is some dude like me is watching TV who has been cured of cancer by your drug for 10 years, and I can sue you for a shit ton of money because my hair didn't grow back.
Yep.
That's a thing that really happens.
Oh yeah, I've heard it.
So
late at night on high definition antenna television. Yeah.
My beard went from curly to straight. I could sue somebody.
If you were successfully treated for this cancerous illness and are happy, but you lost your hair, you may be entitled to compensation.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. So
I'm perfectly healthy and I don't have any hair.
Yeah. So that is where the expense comes from. There's a whole lot to it. And our drugs are way too expensive all the time. Chemo, especially for the reasons I said. It's a small group. It's an expensive drug to make. Small group of patients that often many of us lose our means of support. We can't keep a job, and then we die before the bill comes. That kind of thing. So it's a horrible market to deal with, and I understand why the guy said what he said. But anyway, that's all I got on it. It's worth reading. It's complicated, heartstringy, but I can't throw it away as quickly as I did as the others. I had to do a lot of reading.
Interesting.
All right. You want me to throw something down on
Hit
this?
me.
Yeah.
We're ready. My voice is tired.
Okay. I know I probably told you guys before about the Pigeon Experiment, right? This guy took I have no idea who the guy's name is, but he took this whole cage full of pigeons, put them in there, and he had a little device that dumped out food.
Oh, yeah.
And it's totally random. Random times during the day and night, it would just throw food out. And over a few weeks, every single pigeon in the cage developed a different behavior that he thought made the food come out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what I'm saying is that all of us, as we go through our lives, we think we develop these behaviors that we think cause things to happen that actually don't cause things to happen at all. They just, well, if I hit the elevator button repeatedly, the elevator gets here faster. No, it doesn't.
Right.
Okay, but you think it does because that's the way your brain works, okay?
Right.
All right, so when you take that, combine that with the fact that, like Matt was talking about earlier, there's a certain percentage of cancers that just go away, and nobody knows why.
Yeah.
The guy had cancer one day, and 2 weeks later he doesn't.
I've got
what happened? We don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It just did. So you put those two things together, okay? You'll have a guy. I'm sure there's a guy out there that got diagnosed with cancer. He went home, smoked cigarettes, and drank beer, and the cancer went away, and he is convinced that smoking cigarettes and drinking beer cured his cancer.
So I ain't quitting.
And so he's all over media telling everybody in the world about how his beer and cigarette diet cured cancer. Okay, maybe it didn't have a damn thing to do with it, but in his mind it did. Okay, that's just the way his brain works. So you got that going on. Okay, that's a layer of this whole problem. The other thing, like you were talking about with the trials. The problem with cancer, I'll say this is a problem. It's a good problem to have, but it's a problem is it's hard to develop a drug and test it because there's not enough people that have it to do the test.
Right.
Okay, if you take high cholesterol, we got a country of 300 million people.
And half of them have high cholesterol.
150 million people have high cholesterol. And it's not something that's going to kill you in a year.
Yeah, you can refine your drugs quite well
so
in
you
those
can
groups.
You can create a group, a test group of 10,000 people, and you can test them for years and years and years to see what happens. You don't have that benefit with cancer drugs.
Yeah, you don't have that luxury.
You don't have a million people you can test for years and years and years. So how do you test it? How do you prove it works? So you're back to I drink beer and cigarettes and my cancer went away. So this thing must work.
Yeah.
But does it? We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like the whole Lorenzo's oil thing. The exact same thing. Well, and one thing I've learned about cancer.
That's beautiful, Cliff.
Thank you. Cliff comes through again, once again. Well, one thing that I've learned about cancer, just through your experiences, and we've all had. We don't talk about it, and we're lighthearted about it. We've all had our heart-wrenching moments with you going through this. But one thing that I have learned is that how individual cancer is.
Right.
People who've never had cancer or never had to deal with someone they truly love who's had cancer and go through it with them, they don't understand that what works for one dude's cancer treatment might not work for 99 other people's. And different kinds of cancer in different parts of the body
metastasize.
Thank you. Differently, and grow differently, and treatments are. I mean, we're extremely individual beings when it comes to the treatment and of this disease and how it develops and grows.
I spent $1 billion developing this drug. Well, how many people have that cancer? 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the
right.
Yeah, and it's very individualized, and I got a ding on Facebook for saying this, but I'm going to say it here. It's like fighting a terrorist cell. Is in a group of people, you have a group of bad people that impersonate and kill the other people that you need to keep around.
Yeah. And
so
how do you differentiate between the good people?
How
and
do
the
you
bad
delineate?
Because they all look the same.
So they all look so you look for behaviors and things, and that's one of the reasons that chemo produces side effects. It's because it's the weed killer analogy.
Yeah.
The reason that my voice is scratchy and my skin's screwed up is because those cells do things. They act like cancer because they're cells that are frequently damaged and repaired.
Yeah.
And so they reproduce the way that the cancer does. Here's what I cannot explain. One of the minuscule side effects, like X few numbers of patients get this, on the drug that I was on that stopped working, is it causes your eyelashes to grow uncontrollably. Dude, if people look at me and I see them twisting their head like a dog going, what's wrong with Matt? And I don't know if you can see this in the camera.
Yeah. Strippers would be jealous of that.
I told
only that.
Yeah, only that's it.
Yeah.
And I told there was a lady next to me in chemo, and we had a really cool conversation, and we were talking side effects, and she said, and I said, oh, check this out, and I closed my eyes like that. She says, those are beautiful. So, anyway,
the one beautiful thing about all this horse shit.
Yeah, you get that. Oh, well, and now I can eat any damn thing I want, and it doesn't matter. And the guy across from me, he said, yeah, man, I miss drinking. And he goes, and I said, I drink like a fish, dude. Well, when I can, when I feel like it. This is the one that makes cold hurt, but it's killed out my mouth so much. It doesn't hurt my mouth, but it hurts my hands. All right, enough of that. All right, I'm dropping this one on you guys fresh.
Let's move on.
Number 3.
Yeah, we're gonna run long. This will be long form. Kids, you'll be glad you stuck around for this. I had never heard this, so this is off the cuff.
Conspiracy number 3.
Conspiracy number 3, and this is a work of art, and I don't know to whom to attribute this. However, here it is. The prevalence of incest pornography online is part of a conspiracy among pedophiles to normalize pedophilia.
Bullshit.
Well, I'm going to have to go do some more research before I...
Okay. Now,
all right.
Now, let me explain all of this to everyone out there.
I'll tell you what it is.
I'm going to say, yeah, Tim, I'm sure you would jump on this, but I'm going to offer up some, again, what is my reaction to this, Matt? How do you feel before we get out on this? I have some experience with this. So I was, as I've said many times before, I was a sex crime investigator and became...
I thought he was going to say pedophile.
And became
Damn it.
Became
misdirection.
The leader of that unit, and you pick up a few things along the way.
Really? Don't you even have like training and stuff that you do? I mean, I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
So when we're going to talk about porn, and you're disturbed how much I know about it. This is for research purposes.
That's my excuse.
This is an academic conversation. None of us have ever filmed or investigated porn.
You guys remember? You guys remember?
Oh God, he's going to draw a picture.
No. Oh Lord!
You guys remember Whale Wars? No. You guys remember Whale Wars, right?
Whale
Wars, the Japanese whaling ships and the floating hippies that tried to stop them and they ran over.
Hippies.
Oh yeah, it's a print. All right. So how did the Japanese get away with doing Okay, they wrote research on their vessel. So
research.
yeah. All right. So when we talk about porn, this is research. We'll just hold
We're
it
doing
up. All right.
research.
Make a table tent out of it.
When you say I happen to know a lot about this subject, this is for research. Okay.
What would that?
You know what? And it's research.
I'm trying to remember, what was that comedian's name that said, he goes,
It's research for a friend.
Was this comedian, he said every girl in college in the United States has a porn website. I know, I've done the research.
Okay. So here's what happens. Here's what happened. One day, this was when so I was in that unit 2005, 2008. A lot of things happening, technology bandwidth, porn's getting bigger. All right. A woman comes in and she says, I'm really worried. I'm having my husband and I are splitting up, and we're having all these problems. And I figured he was up to something. I got his laptop, and he is watching incest porn.
Dun dun dun.
Right. So we dealt with child porn and a lot of stuff. So, when you tell us that, man, the shit we do to your computer at that point, we rained hate on you, man.
Yes.
Megabytes.
I'm aware. I'm aware.
Megabytes of electronic hate. So we get the guy's computer and we do all the stuff and we dump it. And so all the things involved, I had a weird feeling about it. So I looked it up, and the guy was looking at apparently everything he had was legally produced porn from legitimate. As legitimate as porn can be. Websites.
I thought he was going to say France.
New sensations.
And
from France,
Alpha France.
This guy was in his late 40s, early 50s. And his sexual...
Why is he looking at me?
His sexual kink... Because I'm trying to focus, dude. I shouldn't look at you. I can't talk about porn, look at you, and focus.
This is getting weird, baby.
His preference was attractive, fit women his age. Okay, so late 40s, early 50s.
And you determined this through...
So that leads you into a corruption of the search query.
Well,
you determined this through a research.
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 Right. So I learned, here's what was going on in the porn industry back then. Thumbnail. Porn was, expensive. You ordered it on VHS or film, had to get it shipped to your house or buy it in a dark alley somewhere back in the day. Internet comes around. It's so cheap you can't not see it. And so the niches became larger. So we go from universally attractive, the college girls that you see, modeling underwear and stuff on TV and bikinis, all the way out to stuff that you couldn't make money on back in the film VHS days.
The spectrum is as wide as the prism.
Right. And guys, when somebody says fetish, I've got a fetish for that. Fetish is a paraphilia, which means a sexual kink, a thing, maybe a little unusual, or a fixation. Fetishism is one of over 170 paraphilias. And fetishism is sexualization of a non-sexual body part. So foot fetish.
Right.
And and Tim, we know because we took the class. Actually, we took it together.
Yeah. So we're talking about
law enforcement.
We're talking about big things. So anyway, we dig through this guy's computer and we're going, there's nothing here but what are women that age?
Yeah.
They're stepmoms.
They're stepmoms. They're MILFs. They're sometimes GILFs.
Well, but no, I mean in real life, what do women that age do? They're teachers, they're moms, and things like that.
Right.
Now, on top of that, you have a whole lot more step-child, step-parent things going on.
The broken home. I will talk about broken homes and how it has influenced.
Yeah, I'll get all mine out here pretty quick.
Okay.
So my theory on that is somebody puts that out and makes a Stacy's Mom video. Okay, gets a good-looking, woman, late 40s, early 50s, and remember the song Stacy's Mom's Got It Going On,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that.
It was horrible.
Yeah, a hot mom thing. And
if it was a song, Tim doesn't like it.
yeah.
That's
So-
true. I'm a jaded old musician, man. It all sucks. Your band sucks. I don't want to see your band on Facebook. Your band freaking sucks.
Dude, even the shit his bass player does sucks.
I'm just glad Tim didn't take up cooking because he would have starved to death by
yeah,
now.
he'd be.
I
Yeah,
don't have that problem right now.
I miss that guy. I remember when both his legs snapped that time playing tennis. So anyway, what happened is now, and that is a large paraphilia. Okay, a lot of people like women that age.
Yep.
I'm married to one of them. I kind of like them.
Yeah, look at Elizabeth Hurley's Instagram.
I missed.
That's a perfect
spot on
example.
this.
So I got to go, guys. I got to go check up that Instagram.
Yeah.
So you have
Right
a
there.
lot of stepchild, step-parent things, and so you have a horny 15-year-old boy. Dad marries the MILF, who has the equivalently hot stepsister that you're not related to that would run around the house in the panties.
Exactly right.
So now this kid has this weirdness.
He's developing his sexual identity. He's developing his self image.
Right.
He's having all of this sexual stimuli in a broken home with these women he's not related
and he's
to.
living in a house, with a bunch of hot chicks that he's not related
Exactly.
Right. So anyway, at night when everybody goes to bed,
he's like,
and Dad
"Man."
goes down to the basement, he cracks open his laptop, and Dad searches for the hot mom, the woman he's after. How's he going to look for it? Stepmom, mom,
right,
whatever.
MILF.
What's the guy searching? The boy searching for? Stepsister. Because there's a video with the mom and the stepsister
right
in one, and so this gets huge, and algorithms kick in.
Algorithms like to make money.
There was a documentary on one of the weird cable channels, and it was about a couple who made a good living filming sex videos of themselves. And these are 20-something kids, both good looking, and they live in this little apartment with a dog and a kid. And when the kid goes to bed, they put out the futon, they romp, and they film it, and they sell it for lots of money online.
Wait, what was the name of that?
Yeah,
you got a pen?
for research. I'll have it documented. Anyway, the guy said, "We're a married couple." He said, "This is the only abnormal thing that we do. Neither one of us have ever been molested." And they go through a very normal upbringing, normal sexualization, everything. They get married, and they're drinking at a party, and somebody says, "Man, people would pay to watch you guys do it online." The guy goes, "Wow, that's crazy, because the recession just hit. My career field went to shit. My wife's at home raising our kid. We'll give it a shot."
Yep.
And they started making money. And the guy said when that started happening, he had to put in the search field or title his videos, "Nailing my stepsister in the, backyard," or whatever. Because
in the laundry room.
Yeah, because nobody was searching for a hot young couple, normal
Right.
stuff. So
because
and even people who wanted that.
Well, dude.
It has become normalized. That's the
Yeah.
thing. And that goes to my point. Okay, so since we're already talking about this, of my two major theories, this is one of the big ones.
Are we normalizing the behavior to do it?
Well, the problem is and I'm not passing judgment.
This is research.
I come from a broken home. You come from a broken home. You come from a broken
I had a hot
home.
stepsister.
We're all in our 40s and 50s.
Man,
and
I got totally ripped off in that area.
And the sexual revolution and the breakdown of the nuclear family in the 50s led to the vast majority of all of us coming from broken homes. And the natural progression of that is that it changes your sexual stimuli. That's all there is to it. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's human response. It's biology. And that is where a big part of this comes from, is simply the fact that, for one thing, and this is a problem, the broken home is a problem. I mean, we all come from broken homes, but I'm telling you straight up that I think the broken home, it's a problem. It has done worse things for America, not better things.
I don't like where this conversation is headed. Can we get back to the research?
So I'm just telling you. I'm not passing any judgment on this, but my greater point is just simply the fact that you when you grow up in a house, like you said, with hot chicks you're not related to, it changes your sexual stimuli. That it changes your thought processes towards sex. What was taboo now is no longer taboo. Kay Parker did a film in 1980 that was called Taboo, and it was about her sleeping with her son, her real son.
And he knows not only the name of the movie.
This is research.
But the name of the actress.
Research. I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it.
Kay, if you're out there, thank you, Kay.
I've seen it more than once.
Okay,
go ahead.
Yeah. So, but what I'm trying to say is that back then,
Taboo 2
even
and
back
Taboo
then,
3, there were sequels.
Even back then, 30 or 40 years ago, in the porn world, it was recognized as being a taboo. They made a movie called Taboo because it was freaking taboo. These days, it's all about, I got these women living in my house I'm not related to, and my dad married this hot 40-something, and she's got this daughter, and this is all symptomatic and emblematical of what happens when homes become broken up and families become intermingled.
Yeah,
in a
it
domestic
changes
setting.
the kid's sexualization.
Yes.
I got a little bit different perspective, a little simpler perspective, and
but have you done?
I've done the research. And
for friends.
I think Matt hit on this earlier. You make videos on YouTube. You make videos, put them on YouTube. Have
you make videos?
And I have made a video and put it on YouTube. No, a couple of them, and they suck. But anyway, we're not talking about that. But have you guys ever thought, if I fiddle with the name of this video a little bit, it would change the search algorithms and I would get more hits?
I struggle with that every
It's
time.
come to mind.
Okay, it has come to mind.
Now I'm thinking I got to put porn in this.
So there you go.
I struggle with the ethics and morality of that every time I post
exactly.
a video.
So
do I want 700 views or 70,000 views?
So if you're hypothetically you're in the porn industry and you have made a video like Matt mentioned of a young heterosexual couple having a beautiful, loving relationship together, and you say, how should I title this video? Young heterosexual couple having a loving relationship, or brother bang stepsister in the utility room?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
And all the 18-year-old boys out there are going, God, man, I wanted to do that forever.
But what are you going to do to set that apart from the competition is what I'm saying.
Well, and let's do...
And so I see it as a much more... To coin a phrase that you like to use, utilitarian.
Right. It is utilitarian.
There's
no question.
Is how do we game the search?
Right.
To get
how
the hits?
do we manipulate?
Why
the
is this
algorithm?
podcast going to be called something brother and sister? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Matt, Tim, and Cliff do incest porn.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So
1 million hits. We're all rich and also in jail.
Well, okay. Wait.
Let me get this out. Let me get this out real quick.
Get yours out.
Let's apply the aberrant behavior thing that Cliff came up with and the money thing that's come up in the cancer thing. I think I've mentioned on this podcast before, Carol Burnett, and they did a reunion of the Carol Burnett show, got everybody that was still around. I can't remember when this was. I was on my way to a fencing tournament, so this was, I don't know, back then. And she said, they asked what she thought about TV now, and she said, they figured out TV production now is cheap. She said, and she ran down what it took to do an episode of the Carol Burnett show. And I mean, the crew was like 80 people.
Oh, yeah. There's catering and costumes
all
and lighting and
it's
makeup.
like shooting a movie every day.
Yeah.
And something like Honey Boo Boo that made shit tons of money takes a production crew,
a crew of 4 people.
Yeah, 4 people.
3 cameras, an audio dude, and a director.
Yeah,
and a couple of PAs that don't get paid
Right,
squat.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's like doing this.
Give me
if
a
If we wanted
sandwich.
to do this before, we would have to own a radio station, and now it's
Yeah, now we're doing it on
jerks
YouTube.
with crap we bought from the
Right.
electronics store.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Best Buy.
where's the okay? So
Hey, it's fries, damn it.
is there? We're definitely doing what they're doing. It fits that whole money pocket thing. The theory that it's about an algorithm and it's about search results. Because what can they film is legal stuff. Okay, they couldn't film an actual brother and sister because it's illegal
Right.
everywhere, and they would go to jail. And so they have to simulate it, which is not illegal. And they can't be 16 years old. And I think there's a law that they can't even say that they are.
Right.
They make efforts to look on, teenagery and stuff like that. So, in fact, I heard a lot of the reasons you see strippers with braces is when they can afford them. They put them on because they can make more money like dressing up as a schoolgirl. Strippers and porn stars.
Holy crap, man.
This is research.
Whoa,
That's
whoa.
weird.
So-
Wait right there. Can we get rich like making grills that look like braces?
There you go. So there's the money. There's the money.
Always
end of
the
it.
businessman.
Okay, so to create this vast network for pedophilia, first of all, it is not pedophilia.
No,
That's
it's
little
not.
kids.
Right.
If anything, it's hebophilia and whichever incestophilia. I forget the name.
And that's a stretch because you're not related to these people.
Well,
either dramatically or in
hebophilia
reality.
is a desire for post-pubescent women that are not of legal age. Okay, so
that's another weird kink.
yeah, teenagers.
Dude,
Lolita,
there's
yeah.
thousands
Dude,
of them.
his years as a sex offense investigator messed him up.
Yeah, dude,
Hey,
I am
like I
not-
said, we took the class together.
Yeah. So, when you here the problem is hebophilia is normal. You're supposed to be attracted. Normal guys are supposed to be attracted to
Post-pubescent
women.
females. Yeah.
And so that's why
That's not
that's
a
why
popular.
you go to the movies with your wife
Yeah.
and you see some girl and you go, wow, and she turns around and she's 15 and you go, oh God, that was horrible.
I'm not supposed
Okay.
to like that.
That's
But biology is telling me I am supposed to
that's
like that.
and every
Right.
guy's done that. If you
Right.
say you haven't, you're a liar. But anyway,
Yeah.
so that's they're promoting that. So that's out the window. On the other hand, if they were, now you're taking a severely abnormal behavior, pedophilia, of a child molester, and you're having to group together a lot of them enough to create this universe that has agreed on all these algorithms and all these problems. So all these people that don't socialize well, they're not as bad as serial killers, but still,
They're
they're
not really social.
Yeah.
yeah, unless they're clergy, they don't work together very well.
Oh! Raise the hammer!
I'm Catholic, so I can say that. All right, get over it. This is research. So seriously, how do you get it to do that? How would you get more than 2 or 3 of them to work together? So I think it's shot.
Yeah.
I'm done. That's it. Mic drop.
That pretty much is it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've said all there
You,
is
but
to
anyway,
say
I had to
on the
interrupt you
subject.
to.
You talked
Get my-
so freaking long, I forgot what I was going to say.
I know it takes me forever to get thoughts
no,
out. Sorry.
it's no big deal. I think we pretty much put a cap on it, but that is a huge part of it. That is where it's deriving from, I think, and I think that it goes to the normalization of we've had 2 or 3 generations of people in Western society who have grown up in these broken homes, and so there's things that 100 years ago would have been a hanging offense that are now completely normalized. Now,
There you go.
and I would say this. First of all, let me lay my cards on the table. I like hot women in their 40s. That's
And
my
this is
this is research. That's what I'm into. But But that's another thing you're not allowed to talk about that you touched on was the fact that the human male mind, the heterosexual human male mind, is programmed to like attractive females who are post-pubescent. That's natural. That's a natural programming. Right. What has happened is that we're dealing with social mores, and not only that, but cultural mores about what is acceptable. When you live in a society that is all broken homes, but at the same time all the kids live at home until they're 30, you're going to end up with porn like this. Yeah. It's just that the porn is a reflection of society. So many things are a reflection of the condition and the health and the advancement technologically of a society. Everything from the porn we create, to the architecture we create is a reflection of the health of our society.
We and Cliff this was probably one of the
don't throw me down.
The series that we were in together about the chicken and egg when it comes to paraphilia. Because
chicken and egg?
I don't remember this.
we were talking about the discussion was what causes a paraphilia, and I'll give an example of a weird one. There was a guy who that's a local case and he's still alive. Okay, out of town case. A guy who worked in an auto shop. I think it was still in Texas. And he never went to lunch with his buddies. He always stayed in the shop. Kind of a quiet guy, sort of kept to himself now to think about it. But
loner?
He would eat a sandwich while he had the shop to himself, and he would get under the cars and pleasure himself to the sight of automotive mufflers.
He was a machine guy.
He was a muffler guy, very specific muffler. Now, here's the thing.
Some people love machines sexually.
Now, in this day and age, okay, we would have never heard about that unless you were, a guy like me that had to deal with guys like him. Because what's he doing illegal? Nothing is, other than somebody walks in with a kid and here's,
There's a crime. Right.
Excuse me, is anybody here? I have a flat tire. Whoa, what's that guy doing? Okay, that's how those guys cross radars. Most paraphilias aren't a big deal.
Don't mind me.
So now,
and I'm out.
Here's the thing. There's a certain group of the audience is going to go, ew, and then somebody's going to go, huh. Now
that reminds me of a joke. Don't let me forget
the joke. Your audience is not that big.
Is that no? It's not. It's not. 120, 30 something people will see this. But,
and one guy will go mufflers, huh?
Yeah, one guy's coming to bed till late tonight. Bride, sorry to hear about it.
Catalytic.
Yeah. Hey, would you grab me whoever's close to the fridge?
What?
I'm gonna need a beer to close this out, man.
You sat in the beer wench seat, dude.
So. Anyway, and there's a theory that says the more of this that's out there is actually opening paraphilia doors.
Is it one of these?
And yeah, I'll take that one. And does this create it in people who are not predisposed to it? And I was trying to think, how do you know if it's affecting your mind this way? And I thought, for research, I thought, if you pull up an incest porn video and watch it, and I'm done after this, guys. Do you turn the volume off? Think about that.
Okay, that's something not for discussion here, but let's.
It's not. That's just food for thought.
I'm almost at the bottom of this one. So let's end on this joke.
You guys slam the door on that one.
Here's the deal. If you are offended by anything we've talked about in the last third of this podcast, I will remind you that there are two types of people in this world based on research. Okay. You're one of these two. You are a creep or you are an asshole.
Trying to pour beer here, dude. Come on.
And here's how you determine which one you are. A woman was pregnant and gave birth, and it was a very rough delivery, and she was in not intensive care, but under a lot of scrutiny. She didn't do well, and finally she came back. The doctor came in and said, how are you feeling? She said, I'm feeling a lot better, but I want to know how the baby's doing because I know this was a very rough delivery and I'm worried about the baby. The doctor said, well, the baby is alive and the baby actually is just fine. But I have some bad news. And she said, what is it? He said, maybe I should just let you see the baby. And she says, okay. So they bring the baby in. It's swaddled. She pulls the swaddle off of the baby to see her child. And the baby is simply a gigantic eyeball. That's all it is. It's a giant eye. And she says, oh my God, this is awful. How could this be any worse? And the doctor says, he's blind. Now, if you laughed at that, you're an asshole. But if you went, oh my God, that's, you're a creep. So we've determined that you're a creep and you are an asshole.
No, that's
I was most impressed by your delivery, Tim.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Well done.
I like telling jokes.
That was beautiful. I could just see you, dude, like reading poetry on PBS with that
in a smoking jacket.
In a smoking jacket,
dude,
and reading poetry about porn research that you did.
And we got the mics for the PBS stuff now.
We
right?
do. We totally do. All right.
Gentlemen, thank you for all of your research. Thank all of you for watching. Oh, Thursday. Oh shit! It's not gonna be published.
It won't be published by then.
I'll try to get it out if I get it out in time. What is?
If this is out on Thursday, October 24th, 2019, come to a well. No, after a porn episode, do we want to say the name of this business where we're gonna meet?
Probably shouldn't.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
Tim Kreitz Adventures. If you're a fan and you want to hang out, you know how to do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Watch this channel.
Having
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers. Good night. This is our most risque episode yet.
Beautiful.
That was a shit show.